Hello, um, this is Isaiah
Hi.
Rude. Um, I'm here to type you, I guess. So, you know, I
Yeah.
guess we'll start with I ask you any questions. Can you just tell me a little bit about your knowledge, background with cognitive functions, how much you know, or if you
Um,
are vacillating between a couple of types, then that would kind of be useful to know. But don't tell me what those
Specifically
types
the
are.
types. Okay. Um, yeah, I am between like two types,
Okay.
I think.
Whoops.
um, and I don't know that much really. I know like the basic outline of like what all the functions are,
Okay.
and I can recognize them and things that I do.
Cool. All right. Um, I guess we'll just start with this. We're gonna play a little variation of the morning game. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna do something. I want you to try to do the same thing as me. Okay.
Okay.
So this morning I woke up. Must have been around like 12 or so p.m. I kind of slept in. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, and then I went downstairs, made a little coffee, got myself a little something to eat, got ready for work, and then I was late to work. Arriving, and it was kind of a mess. And anyway, can you do something like that? Can you narrate a sort of story about what happened to you this morning, or you know, today in general?
Yeah. I was supposed to be uh, meeting someone for work at 7:30, and I woke up at exactly 7:20. So I was running late, and I got up and I brushed my teeth and I basically ran out the door. And yeah, I was like 5 minutes late,
Okay,
and
cool.
then I went to work.
All right. So, do you live with anyone right now, or are you living on your own, or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have two roommates.
All right. So, do you and your roommates ever like have any sort of fight or dispute or anything like that?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
Can you tell me a sort of kind of conversation that you guys have, or is it just completely variable, or what?
Um, yeah. I don't understand really. There's a lot. I mean, I guess I would say it's variable. We talk about we joke like I sit in their room for hours. I mean, it's my brother and his girlfriend, so
Okay.
I.
Can you tell me a specific recent conversation that you had with one or both of them? Or just maybe some of the details of it?
Yeah, we had just bought new phones, and we were talking about like which company would have been better to go to because my mom was telling us about different deals that they had that we never looked into,
Mm-hmm.
and but that was just like I don't know 4 hours ago.
Oh, okay. That was 4 hours ago. All right. Can you like recall something from maybe a little
Yeah.
bit further back, or?
um how further back? I don't know. We talk like every single day, so.
Okay, that's fine. I think I got what I needed from those questions anyway. Um,
Okay.
but I guess just as a sort of self-reporting question, like, do you what what's your general sort of sleeping and eating habits, or like are you regular with your sleep? Do you go to bed at the same time every day, or?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm very terrible about it.
Do you know the next day if like you didn't get enough sleep, or like you slept badly, or slept had poor, you didn't feel like very well rested? Do you kind of get that feeling often, or what? Like, can you tell just from what your body is telling you that you
um
didn't get enough sleep last night?
sometimes, not very often. I've never understood how people say that like they like didn't sleep well,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. Like I've rarely ever had those times where I don't feel like I slept well. It always just feels the same when I wake
Okay.
up. I don't
All right. Um.
unless I've only had like 2 hours of sleep and then my eyelids feel heavy. But that's the most that ever happens. It's just like your eyes feel heavy, I guess.
All right. Um. I guess we'll just jump right into the NE questions then.
Okay.
Can you give me 5 syllables for the word discombobulated?
Discom discombobulated.
Or sorry,
Right?
not 5 syllables.
I don't know.
5 synonyms. My bad.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry. Uh,
um discombobulated, that means like out of sorts, right? Like out of order.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's like sort of. Well, it's hard because I want to say it, but I don't want to use any synonyms. So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Out of order.
Mm-hmm.
Hot mess. um I don't know, it's hard to think of them on the spot.
Okay. What about
Messy.
bamboozled, frazzled, confused,
Yeah.
bewildered?
Oh, that's what it
Yeah.
means.
Yeah.
I'm not like that familiar with that word.
It's
I've
alright. Don't
never
worry about
used
it.
it, so
Yeah. I mean, that one's a little bit. It's
I could
not
have put
quite as
all the
difficult as
other
some
ones
other
together,
words,
but
but you know, I kind of
yeah.
it took me a second too to think of some. So, but anyway, all right. I'm gonna start a story, and I want you to try to finish the story for me. Okay? So I'm just
Okay.
gonna narrate just whatever comes to the top of my head, and you finish it for me. So there
Okay.
was a frog named Peter and a toad named Jazz. And Peter and Jazz lived on the same lily pad together. They'd been living there on that very same lily pad their entire life. But then one night, a huge storm blows past the pond that they're living in on that lily pad. And the lily pad slowly drifts away from the shore where they need to go to get whatever food source or whatever they need. So Peter looks at Jazz and he's like, "This is your fault, dude. I saw you blow in that direction. I know that was you. You're a dick, dude. And you need to get us back over there." And Jazz is like, "Are you kidding, dude? Like, did you see what just happened? You've got to be like fucking on some drugs or some shit." So then finish the story from there.
And
It was a terrible story, but
yeah. um Peter jumps back into the pond and goes underneath the lily pad and tries to push up on it and pushes Jazz into the water, and then neither of them can get back on the lily pad, and they have to find a new lily pad. I don't
how tragic.
know. Right?
So like they're like wandering around homeless. There's this entire like 3 chapters of like homeless frog toad gay couple. And then
Oh my god.
okay. Um I'm going to invent something. And I want you to come up with as many names for that invention as you can think of, okay? So,
Okay.
I have come up with this new product. It's a circular saw, and it's also a whetstone where you can grind your medieval weapons. So, well, actually, I mean, those two are pretty similar, so I'll make the first one. So, it's actually going to be a guitar and a whetstone. But the only name that I could come up with that was guitar that's also a whetstone. But they tell me that's not going to sell very well, so I need you to come up with as many names as you possibly can for it. Make it marketable.
Okay, how does it function again? What did you say?
It's a guitar, but like on the back of
Uh-huh.
it, it's like also a whetstone. There's like this thing coming out of it, and you can grind all your weapons onto it.
Okay. Okay. So, saw and strum. Um, cut the bass. I don't know. um, string and I don't know. It's hard.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, cool. I think I'm starting to get a general sense of sort of the few types that I think you could be. I still haven't done any TI tests on you though, so I guess we'll just kind of jump right into them.
Okay.
All right. So if there are two barks in a strap and two straps in a
Mhm.
buttercup, and one
Mhm.
buttercup and two straps equals a chase, then how many
Mhm.
barks are there in a chase? And if you need me to repeat it, I will.
Yeah. One more time.
Okay. There are two barks in a strap,
Mhm.
and there are two straps in a buttercup. And a buttercup and two straps equals a chase. So then how many barks are there in a chase?
12.
The answer is 8, I think.
I was gonna say 8 or 12.
I mean, like, if I'm wrong, then people will correct it in the comments, but I'm pretty sure it's 8.
Okay.
One buttercup and two straps. Anyway, so who is, in relation to me, my mother's sister's only son?
You.
Who is my father's wife's only daughter?
My aunt.
Let's see, it would be father's, that's grandfather's wife's, so that would be mom, because I said only daughter.
But you're talking about your father.
Right. As soon as
Your
I got to
father's side of the
father, I
family.
went to father's brothers, and then I went to father's again. So that's grandfather. And then grandfather's
Uh huh.
wife is grandma. And grandma
Mhm.
only has one daughter, which would
Mhm.
be my mom. Now, if I said just daughter, then it
I
could
don't
have been
see
aunt.
that. But you were talking about your paternal side already, right?
Yeah, but it switched to maternal as soon as I said my grandfather's wife. Anyway, um, I'll ask another one anyway.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure the answer is mom, but anyway, who is my mother's um, only daughters, only brothers, only sisters, husbands, fathers, grandsons, fathers, brothers, only brother's wife?
Okay, hang on. Can you do it one more time? Sorry.
I mean, it's gonna have to be a different one because I completely did not keep track of that. But I mean,
Okay.
the answer is mom again, but I didn't expect you to get that anyway. But um, okay, yeah, I think I'm honing in on generally what type I think you are. I'm not entirely sure though. I'm sort of having a little bit of trouble distinguishing between two in particular I'm thinking of, but I guess I'll just ask you, you know, what sort of hobbies do you have, or like what do you do in your spare time?
Um, well, I write occasionally. Um, I have trouble like sticking to hobbies. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
know why. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and
Okay.
I get like really stuck on topics.
What kind of stuff do you watch?
So, like my hobbies are kind of like really sporadic, and they're like
Same here.
intensely focused, I guess. But I watch a lot of SciShow. I love Hank Green. I watch well lately. I've been watching a lot of Eric's channel. So
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what is it
um
that you like about Eric's content in particular?
well, okay. So I first got into typing, um, and I was just like sampling the YouTubers,
Mm-hmm.
and then I found CS Joseph, and he actually like the first like his typing of celebrities or whatever where he like takes money from people to type. He typed Eric, and he was saying like how boring it was when he was talking, and that's what I realized like what is this guy like talking about, because Eric actually sounded interesting and he didn't. But yeah, he just like actually comes up with his own concepts and like knows what he's talking about instead of just like regurgitating information and like I don't know, he's not like
He has
absolutely certain.
justifications for the things he says instead of just
Yeah,
attributing it to like some other guy.
yeah.
So yeah, miles better. Like
Way.
much. If you're gonna learn from one of them, then Eric is the one to learn from. But okay. So you've probably not actually been around like the typology community that long, then I would presume. Maybe
No.
just like a month or so.
Yeah, less than that, probably like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Um. So you like basically so you like television then, right? Television and YouTube. So do you and then you write some. So what kind of stuff? Oh,
I
you don't like
hate
TV? I
TV.
thought I heard you say that. Never mind. Okay.
No, I hate it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I don't know. It just kind of bores me. But
It's so boring.
okay. So what kind of stuff do you write?
I write poems, well, songs basically.
How many of them do you
I
start
don't
and
really
not finish?
understand a lot.
Okay.
And it's like that with everything. Like if I turned my camera around and showed you my room, I like rearranged it and started cleaning it and just stopped halfway like 2 days ago, and it's not finished yet.
All right. Well, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you just about where I am right now. I think your SI was definitely too good to be polar, and it's probably not eighth slot either. You didn't seem too reluctant. You didn't really collapse into generalities like by default. You were able to cite specific examples of things pretty easily. So I would say you're probably front stack SI. Um, Now your any it was a little difficult to tell, and I might have to push on that just a little bit further, because I
Okay.
think it very well could be second slot if things check out, but it could also be third or fourth. I'm pretty confident your SI&E though, and as for your TI, you're not a TI DOM, I don't think, and I don't think that you're
Okay.
TI tool either. So that leaves the NFPs and SFJs, which is kind of a weird thing to kind of be in between right now for me, but um okay, so do you would you consider yourself like a social person, or like the kind of like the colloquial use of the word like extroverted? Do you think that you're
No.
extroverted in that sense?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. People scare you, or
Um, scare me? That's a weird way to put it.
it is?
Um, no, not particularly. Well, I mean, like, do I am I like sort of paranoid? Like, do I not trust people? Yeah, in that sense.
Okay.
But like, do they scare me like socially? Not really.
So what about it is hard to learn to trust somebody?
From past experiences.
Okay. Um, do you have any sort of preferences for media or like movies, for example? Like, do you watch movies at all, or is that also a no go for you?
Occasionally.
All right.
Um, I don't know. I don't really have much of a preference for them
Hmm.
because it's like something that's so occasional.
I
Like, I
see.
don't come home and like want to watch a movie.
Hmm. All right. Um. Yeah. I think I'm already sort of leaning with ISFJ is probably where I'm leaning right now. But the second possibility that I think you could be is INFP. Um, the issue with that is that I don't think that your NE was quite second slot. But the thing is, with INFPs, a lot of the time they are ideating a whole lot in their head, and you can almost see it in their facial expression, but they don't vocalize everything they're sort of all their little internal monologues they have going on. So, um, yeah, I think probably gonna have to push on that NE just a little bit more to distinguish the two. But and
Okay.
also might just test your TI a little bit more. So actually, I'm gonna go a different direction. Do you have opinions on politics?
Yeah.
Okay. So can you name like maybe a? I'm not gonna like debate you about it or anything, but just sort of a
Okay.
position you take on something and give me like for example, um, what's your opinion on like what do you think of I don't know how controversial I should get, but what do you think of abortion?
Um, I think if that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do.
Okay. So,
I think it's definitely not a man's place to tell a woman, but
right,
I
okay.
don't like feel any certain way about it.
All right. So, if I gave a position or like if I told you to argue the opposite position from that you currently take, would you be able to do that? Could you
Um,
argue against abortion?
yeah.
Okay. So, fine then. I'll be F and you be neg then.
Okay.
All right. So,
Wait, what?
what's that?
You want me to
Oh, I'm
argue for
sorry.
it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm arguing affirming that we should, legalize abortion nationwide. Well, it's already legal nation.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's already federally legal, but like I guess well, it's kind of a weird one to do. I don't know why I picked that one. Um,
No, it's fine.
but I guess like if whatever. It would be better if I picked one that
I
was kind of
mean,
more current, but it doesn't matter. So, all right, I guess I'll
all
just
they
kind
have to argue is that Jesus, you know,
of okay.
it's a life, and you can't kill a life. It
All
has a
right.
heartbeat at 4 weeks, and all of
Well,
that
well,
everybody says.
address the things that like I'm gonna say, and because I'm gonna be arguing on the affirmative. So, all right,
Okay.
and I'm not just clarifier. I don't really none of the things I'm gonna say or whatever actually maybe may or may not be what I think. I'm not gonna really talk about it.
Yeah.
But okay, so it's obvious that abortion should be federally legal because a woman has when a woman is put in a position that is threatening her life or threatening her I suppose you'd say quality of life. When she's put in a situation where it's threatening her quality of life, that oftentimes is the most easy escape route. Not escape route. It's essentially the woman has autonomy, and as an autonomous person, she has the ability to choose whether she wants to take this. And also, let me set up this. I'm going to set up a little like framework. I forgot to do that. I don't know why I didn't. Okay, so what we consider a human life is important. So the reason why we should consider a life starting at birth and not conception is because the baby at that age doesn't have sufficient cognitive abilities to actually make decisions. We can't consider it a moral agent because we can't hold it accountable for anything that it does. Thus, it makes the most sense to consider it not a human life. And then with this position, I'm going to add on, or I guess with that framework, no, that's actually pretty good. That's sufficient. So, if you were to argue against that framework, what would you say? That definition I have for human life. I mean, I don't actually want to I don't actually want to have a full-on debate. I just kind of want to see,
Yeah.
I don't even know where I'm going with the questions, like these particular questions. I'm just kind of spitting them out at this point. So.
A baby has a heartbeat at 4 weeks. What if your parents had done that to you?
Okay.
It's I don't know. It's kind of hard to.
Okay. So what do you think the definition, or what do you think that the start of life, when do you think the start of life should be considered, the start of life, for, as it pertains to this particular discussion? Like, when do you think life starts? But obviously, that's going to be kind of, it has to kind of differ from mine. It has to be exclusive from mine, obviously. So.
Okay, then life would start when the baby emerges and takes its first breath.
Okay. Why is it that we should consider it at? Well, hold on. That's the one that I did.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
So why does life start at conception? Sorry, I should have worded that better.
Okay. All right. It starts when the egg is fertilized.
Okay. Why should we consider it life, starting at conception rather than birth?
Because it is already forming and we can't play God, even though we do all the time.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna give you a few more sort of easier TI tests because the ones I gave you were sort of a bit. I mean, especially the ones at the end. They're like I didn't really expect you to get those at all. So, if only dogs bark, and Kenny is a dog, can we say that Kenny definitely barks?
Yeah.
Why?
Because only dogs bark, and he's a dog.
Okay. If all dogs are helicopters, and all helicopters fly, and only things that fly are birds, then can we necessarily say that all dogs are birds?
No,
Why not?
because not all things that fly are birds.
Right. I mean, I said only at a certain point. So, yeah, you're right. It doesn't follow for that one. Um. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm kind of got you down. I think I've changed what I sort of thought before. I think you're probably. I'm still kind of vacillating between the two. I mean, you're kind of tough. I mean, you're. I think I've got it down to probably INFP is what I'm thinking. But I don't know. What did you come in thinking that you were?
An NTP.
Okay. Um. All right. Well, I mean, it's certainly not completely impossible. If, well, I would probably say you're much more likely to be an INFP than an INTP. Um,
Okay.
your
So
TI
I
was
haven't I haven't looked into that
your
type.
TI was pretty good. Um, it was just I think it was more consistent with eight slot probably than dominant TI. It's sort of typical. INFPs actually do have like pretty good TI a lot of the time. I mean, it's kind of variable, but I don't know. Um, you write. I mean, not that that is really definitive of anything, but your any, although it doesn't seem like it's like super active or anything like that. I think it doesn't. You don't sound like. I don't think you sound like an ISFJ to me. Um, I mean, I'm not entirely sure, but since I'm sort of between those two, I'm going to go into a little bit of the specifics with this. Okay, so do you have trouble with like figuring things out? Like, let's say your car breaks down or something, and like, do you think
Mhm.
you could? Well, tell me the steps to fixing your, or like, yeah, let's say your car, you're driving down the road, and then steam starts to billow out of the hood, and so then you stop on the
Mhm.
road. What are your steps to successfully interfacing with this problem and fixing it?
Um. Well, you pull over, and you pull your hood up, and you let it cool down first, and then you take the cap off of the radiator probably and see if it has antifreeze.
Okay. So,
But you have to let it cool down first because if not, it splashes in your face.
all right.
I think.
Can you divide up in maybe 6 steps the process of making and eating breakfast? In exactly 6.
Exactly 6?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, open the fridge. Or not open the fridge first. Okay, so open the cabinet. Um, get the bagel. Open up the bag. That's 3. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, so open the cabinet. Grab the bagels. Open them up.
Okay.
Get one. Toast it. Take it out.
All right. I mean, the kind of forgot the eating part, but I mean that was all right. Other than that, that was pretty good.
I thought you said just making.
I mean, I'm sort of like experimenting with some TE tests, and I've sort of heard some. So I mean, that last one was kind of, I mean, the first one I just kind of made up. But anyway, it's not really definitive at all. I Either way, I'm pretty sure I think you're an INFP. I'm okay. So, but just to sort of confirm, INFPs would presumably be pretty bad at actually like getting up and sort of taking an action. I mean, what I mean by that is like if you give them a task to do, and INTPs are the same way, they will find any
Mhm.
excuse to push that off further. So, I mean, yeah. Do you do that sort of stuff a lot? Are you a procrastinator? Do you find that would people around you describe you as lazy?
Yeah. Um, I'd like to think that they didn't, but they probably do.
Okay.
um, well, I get it done like at the last absolute second that I can normally.
All right. Um let's say you've been kidnapped and in front of you there's this table and it has a red pill and a blue pill. It has not. It doesn't. I don't even do the Matrix, but one of them says um, extreme sadness, and the other one says extreme fear, and you have to take one or die. Like there's some sort of like intercom that comes on, and
Mhm.
he announces, "Yeah, you have to choose one of these pills, or I'm gonna kill you." What do you do in that situation? Or which pill do you take, and why?
I guess sadness.
Okay, why is that?
Um, well, I don't know. I could take either of them, but I feel like I'm more like acquainted to sadness. I don't really get like too scared
Mm-hmm.
that often.
All
Um,
right.
but I'm sad a lot, so I can handle it. But either way, I'll know that the reaction is just from me taking the pill. So I could handle
Okay.
either one. I don't know if that's
It's interesting. That question, someone came up with that a while ago. It's supposed to be an FI test. The thing is, though, like people's, I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to actually judge just because, like, anyway, the correct answer, or the most, like, the one that kind of, I guess you could say that an FI DOM, if anyone answered it correctly, it would be an FI DOM, probably, or an FI tool user, which would be you take the fear one because if you're being kidnapped by a serial killer, you're already terrified. So,
uh,
right. But
yeah.
anyway, so that's interesting. Okay. Um and I'd also like to add I think your answers with your SI were also pretty consistent with um it was consistent with definitely consistent with front stack. I think you're absolutely front stack SI, but I think you're more likely to be um I think you're probably third slot. Um, right. Okay. Yeah, I think I've got you down. I think you're probably an INFP. Um, I will say I'm not. I'm not complete 100% on that. I'm probably around 90-ish%. Um,
So am I an FE Dom?
you'd be an FI dom, I think.
FI. Oh,
So you're an FI
that's
dom. You've got any as a tool function. So Um, it basically means you're constantly trying to. INFPs are always trying to engage with the world in a way that is conducive for them to be comfortable and happy. But the way that they, or so that they can
mhm.
sort of more, they FI DOMs are constantly struggling to, or especially INFPs, they try to make the world align with how they feel about things using words and talking, or trying to express things that they deliberate via FI with words. The issue with that is that most of the time, FI deliberations are extremely difficult to articulate, and feelings can be very complex. And so that's it's almost like a sort of I wouldn't say contradiction, just sort of difficulty for the INFP. Another thing that's characteristic of INFPs is SE polar. Um, as I said before, terrible at getting shit done. Don't rely
That,
on them to like
yeah.
to keep track of shit and do shit over time. It's not gonna happen. If you ask them to like for an example, I'm SE Polar as well. So the other day,
Mhm.
my parents they just wanted me to drive to like the nearest Taco Bell, which is like 2 minutes away, and pick up some food. And it took me 30 minutes to an hour to stop grumbling about it. And I finally went. So that's what they do. I mean, do you think that sort of resonates with you? At least, like, sort of the way that sort of like, right, okay. I mean, I'm sure anybody
That's
wouldn't want to get up from whatever they're doing and go, but it's especially bad with SE Polar. Um, that it's like, and it's also consistent with what you said about how you write as well. Is the whole starting and stopping thing, or just sort of starting a project, or being way too ambitious at the very beginning, and then
hmm
quitting, and you keep
yeah.
doing that over and over again.
hmm
Because either you keep thinking of new ideas, or you keep on thinking of
Yeah.
completely fundamental changes to this narrative that you're constructing, and because you're thinking of all of those things sort of in succession, it makes it really difficult to actually commit to something and write.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get over that, though, INFPs are fantastic writers. I've I've known a few of them myself, and they're talented. And so, but also, I kind of want to, I guess, just tell me, like, do you have any sort of questions about it, or are you sort of still not satisfied with the typing I've given you, or what do you think?
Um. Well, I actually just started. I haven't looked into INFPs that much. I think there was just like a live stream the other day that I watched a few minutes of where Rachel was talking about INFPs, and I sort of resonated with some things that she was saying. Um, I don't know. I feel like when I thought that my FI would be very low and not dominant.
Okay, what makes you say that?
I just don't feel very in tune with my emotions all the time.
Okay, so today, I guess we'll sort of revisit this. I mean, if you have doubts, it's always better to kind of double check this kind of stuff. So, um, okay, sorry. Um,
Mm-hmm.
oh God, where even was I? Where were we before? I just got interrupted.
Uh, I said my FI. I
Oh,
thought
right,
it would
yeah.
be
Okay,
lower
so
and definitely not dominant.
so if something doesn't align with how you feel, is it difficult to say exactly what that is, but you know that you're uncomfortable or that something's amiss?
Uh, um, I guess that just doesn't like happen very often. I don't know.
Okay. So, hmm. All right. Um, I think that the only other type there is sort of to revisit would be ISFJ. The issue is, I think that you've tested for your TI. You've tested definitely not polar, so you're not an ENFP or an ESFP. We can eliminate those types out like just right off the bat. I don't think you're an extrovert. Your NE, it seems to be sort of active. The issue is I'm having a lot of trouble discerning if whether you're having difficulty actually committing to saying something or whether you're having difficulty coming up with things to say. Um, Nevertheless, you your FI, it seems to be sort of. I think it could be demonstrative, but anyway,
What?
I think yeah, the only well no. I don't know why I said that. Sorry. Anyway, those are the only two types I was kind of between. Oh right, yeah, eliminating types. Right. So you didn't test polar for SI. You didn't test polar for NE, although the NE was sort of a lot lower than the sort of other ones. Um, so I don't think you can be a TI DOM. I don't think you can be TI tool. Um, you you're not an NE DOM either. I don't think, and you're I still haven't really eliminated SI DOM, but I think you're NE. I mean NE fourth. Well, hold on. Let's go back to your NE answers. You gave two different names, two or three different names for the that object that I made up, and two different syllables for the thing. Okay. I think I'm gonna change my answer back to ISFJ. I think that's the last one. That's it. Yeah. So right. It took my NI a little bit to get that into place. I think you're probably an ISFJ. Some correlation, like correlative things, sort of got in the way of me coming to that conclusion. Like you enjoying writing, for example, and the whole NE tool thing sort of seeming to resonate with you. I think on the surface you're gonna seem like an INFP, and a lot of people, including myself just now, would sort of jump to that conclusion. But I think your FI is probably more likely to be backside, as you said, and your TI wasn't. It was. I think it was probably too good to be eighth. Although it certainly wasn't dominant. I think that you're right about the quadra. You had the right quadra, wrong type. So same four functions. It's consistent with you testing relatively well on all the different tests that I gave you. The ones that we can test for now, and I think you mentioned earlier that most of your trust issues come from past experiences with people, which is indicative of the same thing. Your FE seems to be pretty good. It seems to be on point, and you're a pretty pleasant person to talk to, and so yeah, I think FE tool makes a whole lot more sense than FE ignoring, but you can't really distinguish those two super easily, at least. Um, yeah, okay. See, now that makes a whole lot more sense now. I think. What do you think?
Okay. Um, I don't know. I don't know where the functions are in the type. Sorry,
Okay,
I got a phone call.
I'll just describe the type to you really quickly, and
Okay.
just a short sort of in-depth explanation of what comprises the ISFJ stack, and you tell me whether it sort of resonates with you or not. So
Okay.
ISFJs are SI DOMs, meaning that their absolute value, their primary absolute value, is their own experience. So that is a sort of bastardized way of saying it, but in a nutshell, basically, ISFJs go into any situation expecting to know first, um, and which is why it makes it incredibly difficult for them to, well, that added on to FE tool. So FE as the second function of the ISFJ. INFJs also have FE as a tool function. The difference is it's more it's typically more chatty in the I mean I would say in the ISFJ than the INFJ. Though I mean that's not really definitive at all. Anyway, your FE, I mean, it seems pretty consistent with ISFJs. ISFJs interface with people as a tool function. So that's why you often hear ISFJs and ESFJs talking about. I mean, they're kind of gossipy sometimes. Um, I've got an ISFJ friend myself, and he's, whether he like sort of knows it or not, he's casually throwing in things that like his, people that we know are doing or saying or whatever. And he can't really help it. That's just kind of what he does. Um,
I hate that.
I mean, and then what's the next? TI is third slot. So that means
Okay.
it's also an absolute value, like your first slot. And I would like to point out FE is not an absolute value for you, it's instrumental. So it means that you don't actually value FE on its own. You're willing to be kind of sassy or uh, sort of disrupt the I should say you kind of would overuse FE in a sense. So you use it to ends rather than as an end in and of itself. The difference between INFPs and ISFJs in that regard is that, because it's an absolute value for INFPs, is that they are more focused on making sure that everyone's feelings are attended to properly, or making sure no one is upset, and that sort of, it makes them seem very FE when really they're just sort of scared of their FE, or they ignore it, I should say. Anyway, fourth slot would be any, and that makes sense. I think your any seems to give you some sort of relief or satisfaction when you can successfully, ideate it in some fashion. When you can successfully make up new ideas that probably, like third slot, it gives you satisfaction, probably not in the same way. It's probably something that you want, you're sort of struggling to do that, to come up with new ideas or to write things in a story, and you kind of wish someone else could help you out with it, or you know it's anyway. But I mean, duality is kind of anyway, but I don't really know if ISFJs, it basically means as a difference from their dominant function, which is constantly referring to other things in the past. Any,
Mm-hmm.
by contrast, comes up with new stuff. So they're necessarily, being SI DOMs, are relatively, they kind of struggle with the ideational process. Or right, okay. So um I don't know. Do you find yourself like sort of appreciating when people are super talkative or creative or whatever, or like do you find those people particularly attractive or what? Like if you had a partner, would you more prefer them to help you out with your stories and sort of maybe give you some new ideas that you can use or whatever, or would you rather your partner kind of tell you what to do and show you how to do the things that you need to do, show you how to get from point A to B? And but they're really stern about it though. They're kind of, yeah.
Yeah, definitely not stern or telling me what to do. I can't deal with that.
Okay,
Even like
but
small
okay, let's
suggestions.
take out that
Most
part
of
then.
them, I'm
That,
like,
that
no.
kind of mess that kind of skewed the answer a little bit. So
Okay.
they're just normal. Like, would you rather have your partner provide you the how to getting things done that you need to, or help you come up with new ideas for whatever it is that you're sort of working on or whatever, or writing?
Um. Well, I would probably say how to,
Okay.
just because like I need structure and
All
like
right.
for somebody to actually force me to do things, because I don't know, like I
I have
can
to say,
start
you
it,
are
but like,
really tough to type. I I'm having a tough time with you. I didn't have this much trouble with like the other two clients that I had, but
I'm
it's just
sorry.
kind of I had most of them eliminated like right at the beginning, and then you're throwing curveballs at me. But um, I still think ISFJ is it seems pretty consistent. Um, it's more consistent with your any answers anyway. Um, and ISFJs still have TE as an absolute value, so your answer to that is still consistent with that. So, and then fifth slot for ISFJs would be SE, which means they ignore the doing of shit. Um, not really sure entirely what that entails, but it probably means that because they're sort of fixated on past experiences or things that they know because they've seen it before or done it before, that it makes it really difficult to actually change from that sort of predictability and impact the world in a sort of different way. Um, Sixth slot is FI. So ISFJs, they don't like um, having to like express genuine feelings, and it's kind of weird. They do. Well, I shouldn't say they dislike it. They dislike it when other people use FI as a justification for things. So if I tell you,
yeah.
um, let's no, like all of you decided let's go to movie A, but I want to go to movie B because it's my favorite movie, and I'm not going to be able to see it if we don't go see it now, and I care way more about it than all of you. And ICJ is going to be like, probably going to be like, along with everyone in Alpha Quadrant, it's probably not going to be okay with that. They're going to be more like, okay, no, the consensus says let's go to movie A. It's what we all decided on. It's what's fair. So suck it up. An INFP would probably be more likely to err on the side of, okay, let's listen to this person. You know, obviously their weight, or you know how much weight they're putting into this is more than all of us combined, right? So it seems to be most justifiable to go with movie B. Um, I don't know. What do you think of that?
Um, I don't really know because it's his favorite movie and it's on his only time to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
Or I guess I should say it's just that he cares more about it than anyone else. That's the main thing, really. It's just that he cares so much more than everyone else about this.
About which movie that
Yeah.
they see?
Like he really wants to see movie B.
Yeah, then I wouldn't care if I
Right.
didn't care about the movie that we were seeing in the first place.
Okay.
Not in the first place, but like if I didn't like have a strong preference, which is like pretty normal for me.
Right. Okay.
Then
And that
yeah,
seems
I'd
more
be like,
consistent with FI sixth anyway than FI Dom. Yeah, I don't think you're an FI Dom. You I think you seem to not really value um, just the mere impact of certain things. Although, you know, for FE reasons, you might sort of seem that way sometimes. ISFJs can appear really like they would sort of give into that sort of thing, but they, you know, it's usually just kind of keep the peace. So, um, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that typing. I just kind of want to make sure that you are, because you know, I mean, if you have doubts or anything like that, then definitely voice them.
um,
Oh, right, I didn't finish my thing. So TE polar as well. So TE in the seventh slot means they are pretty terrible at the how-to of everything, as I mentioned before, with the what do you seek in other people question. ISFJs are pretty blind to like I'll give you an example of polar TE because I've got a sister who's also got TE in the polar slot, but she's an INFJ. She comes up to me and she's like, "Can I put this in the microwave?" and holds up a giant metal cup. And I was like, I'm just
Oh
surprised that
no.
that didn't like come to you instantly. But you know, it's she needs to make sure, she needs to come and refer to me to make sure that like she's not, you know, about to do something that's gonna cause a disaster or something. So
Yeah.
in that sense, TE is delegated really badly from like ISFJs and INFJs. They delegate TE pretty much because they're completely like, you know, kind of terrified of the idea of taking up the task of figuring out how to successfully, you know, interface with the problem or interface with whatever is going on. Um, so that seems, I mean,
So
fairly
what sort of
consistent.
things does so TE is just like the process of doing things sort of? I don't
It's
fully understand what TE is.
so TE, as opposed to FE, is a way to interface with um, non-people things in order to accomplish a goal. And note that the goal is kind of crucial when we define TE because um, it's unlike TI, it's completely dependent on the object of desire. I should say, I guess. TE it
Okay.
basically is the function that you use to find the most efficient way to go about doing something. Not the doing of the thing itself, but um, how can I do this in the right order so that my thing is accomplished? So,
I feel like I'm pretty good at that.
you think?
Yeah. I think well the question that you asked me that I know like specifically pertains to that would be the one with like my partner. But I think that that question would probably relate more to like how low my SE is.
Well, ISFJs, I would also like to point out,
Mm,
they,
that's bad. I
which is
don't
another
know.
reason why it was difficult just through the question of like, you know, if you have trouble getting up and doing stuff, is the issue is ISFJs also have that issue. Um, they're often known to be like they're often considered the laziest type. I mean, by some anyway. I mean, Eric calls them that. Um, not to say that ISFJs are lazy, but SE can look very similar in ISFJs to the SE polar of INFPs. So, I mean, that itself seems pretty consistent. And, oh, and also another thing about ISFJs is that they've got 8th slot NI. So, that is sort of interesting. I think um, if you if you tell an ISFJ that something from their experience doesn't actually matter or has no relevance to this particular thing that we're talking about, that's going to very much upset them because after all they took the time to go through and tell you what this experience is because you do think it's important. So, you know, for example, if there's like some sort of accident that happens and you think you saw who it was that caused the accident or what it was that caused the accident, and then you report that, um, and then, you know, instantly you're kind of shut down with, no, I know you're lying about it. I know you didn't, I know that's not what you saw because of blah, blah, blah. Then, out of all types, ISFJ would be
Mm-hmm.
the most just sort of furious with that person. Um, they don't want to be told what they've seen or experienced because their SI is absolute. Um, so, yeah, that's all the things. So, did you have a, like, do you have any sort of anything else that you would like to clear up or, you know, just anything to talk about in general? What do you think?
Um, I don't think so. I'll just have to look more into
Okay.
ISFJ because I don't know anything about the type besides what you just told me, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
didn't like resonate like too deeply with it, but I'm not saying that you're wrong. I
Mm-hmm.
am very new to it, so I have no idea. It's just a new door for me to open.
Yeah. Um. Right. I think we can probably. I mean, I don't think there's any other type that's. I think that. Sorry. Yeah, it's the most justifiable type for me right now would probably be ISFJ, simply because, first of all, when you answered the NE questions, it seemed pretty evident to me that it wasn't second slot. Um, but you're obviously SI front stack. So I don't think it's first or second. I'd like to point that out. Um, ISFJs typically have an easier time than ISTJs with their fourth slot NE, but I mean, with ISFJs, it's kind of variable. Um, Nevertheless, it's distinct from second or first slot. Um, and I mean, not that it's bad or anything, but it's just that it's not how you interface with the world. So, um, and then your TI answers. It's also pretty consistent. I don't think your TI. There's no chance it's seventh. If it was sixth, then you would be FE polar, which you're not. If it was fifth, you'd be a TE dom, which you're not. Um, it's probably not fourth. I mean, first of all, I think you're an introvert anyway, and um, so it's probably not fourth in the first place. But also, I mean, you still seem to answer better than most people who are four slot TI that I've talked to before, um, and so that kind of leaves first, second, or third. And I think it's pretty. It seems pretty consistent that you're TIFE as well. So you're alpha quadra, and because of the answers you gave to the TI test, an SFJ is kind of the only thing that's left. So that's, I would say, is the full full my justification for your typing
Okay.
in a nutshell. So it has to be front stack, and then you're obviously SINE, which only leaves ISFJ.
Okay.
All right. Well,
I
anyway.
agree more. Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was pretty. I mean, it seems like your TI is definitely more deft than a lot of other TI third slot people that I've seen before. But um, anyway, I think I forgot my entire train of thought. I was gonna say something about TI, but anyway, um, I enjoyed talking to you. I think it was. I think I'm probably right about it. If anyone disagrees or anything, definitely let me know. Um, I'm okay with being wrong. So if you think she's a different type, whatever, just tell me why. Um, and if you'd like, since we didn't really have a whole lot of time to kind of talk after about maybe sort of easing the. I mean, I'm sure being a different type than what you came in sort of thinking, it takes a little time to sort of recalibrate, or I wouldn't even say recalibrate, question it. If you think I'm wrong, then
Yeah.
you know if you definitely think I'm wrong, then I very well could be wrong, and it's something worth looking into. So, but again,
Yeah.
I'd like to point out, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure. So anyway, I guess I'm just gonna stop the recording now.